Yo, what's good, y'all? So we're going live real quick, and today's live is gonna be about living in my experiences living in America versus living abroad. I guess they making me do a live in this vertical stream, but in this vertical thing. But basically, I want to go through four different aspects of living abroad versus living in the United States of America, my home country. But anyways, we're gonna go over making money. Which is better to make money in? Is it better to make money in the United States or is it better to make money abroad? We're gonna go over some dating and relationships. Is dating and relationships better abroad or is it better in the United States? And then we're gonna go over health and wellness, kind of peace as well. And then we're gonna also go into personal growth. So what is the best environment for all of the above. So while we're doing this live stream, I'm also going to be getting in a little workout. So I'm just going to be doing some pull-ups, dips, maybe some leg raises. Got a home workout little situation here. I got this is called a Bull Bar 2.0, cool little home pull-up bar. And then it's got some dip attachments as well. I can do a bunch of stuff on this. But after this first set of pull-ups and dips, let's get into the topic at hand. And I think we're gonna do 10 pull-ups, 15 dips. That's what the workout's gonna be. 10 pull-ups, 15 dips. And then after I'm done with the dips and the pull-ups, then I'll probably go into some leg raises. Also, guys, let me know in the chat if the audio is cool, because I'm not 100% sure if the audio is cool. I don't even really know how this works anymore. But yeah, let me know how the audio is, because I got it on a microphone, but I could just do it through the actual phone audio or the phone microphone. All right, so first is making money. So I've lived abroad or out of mainland United States for years. I think I was out of mainland United States for approximately 9 years, 10 years. And I've also lived in mainland United States for the rest of my life. I'm 39 years old, going to be 40 in August. And for me, depending on where you're located at in the United States, if you're in a big metropolitan area, like I'm in San Francisco, you can't really beat making money and starting a business in the United States. It's much more opportunity out here. Also, there's much more money out here as well. So what I've noticed, I do personal training and I've had different businesses before. I actually had a business in Japan where I was doing Airbnb rentals. And I made a good amount of money doing Airbnb rentals, but that was more of like me hitting a lick on something that was temporary versus what I'm doing right now is something more sustainable and it's something that I can build. So soon I'll be opening up a gym, but even just my entrepreneurial endeavor of personal training, it's been much more prosperous out here than any other place. Like I lived in Hawaii. I don't think it would be good to start up a gym. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be good to start up a gym in Hawaii, but it definitely wouldn't be as good as San Francisco and definitely overseas. People just, one thing about personal training is it's a luxury service. So you have to go to the areas that people can afford a luxury service. So in the United States, I would think like New York, LA, San Francisco, Miami, I don't know, Las Vegas might be one of those places, Houston, Texas, big metropolitan areas. where they have a lot of industry. So that's where you want to go when it comes down to making money. Another thing about living abroad, and this is actually probably more important, is really more than likely the only way that you're going to be able to make money abroad is whether if you have some type of uh, um, if you have some type of online business. And starting an online business is super difficult. I did an online training business for maybe about 3 years, and I had some success, but there were some ups and downs. There was months where business was booming and money was coming in. I was getting clients left and right. And then there was other months where I couldn't get anybody to buy any of my cheap programs. You know what I mean? And on top of that, online is always going to be super fickle. You know what I mean? You're at the mercy of the algorithm when it comes down to making money online, or you're at the mercy of search engine optimization. And I'd say trying to placate or trying to get yourself into that algorithm or trying to do search engine optimization is actually going to end up being more work for you than the actual service that you're providing or the actual business that you have going on anyways if you're doing like an online business. So I think the whole digital nomad thing and traveling overseas and making money overseas and making money on your laptop thing, I think that's basically a pipe dream. And I'm not going to say that it can't work because, like I said, it did work for me for a minute, but I got burnt out. And I much more enjoy training people in person than I did training people online. First off, I can help people in a much more proficient way. And on top of that, I can make way more money. Like way more. I make 10 times the amount of money that I was making training people in person opposed to when I was training people online. So money, business is always going to be better in America. There's a reason why everybody in the world, not everybody, but there's a reason why a large percentage of people in the world are trying to come to America, because this is the land of opportunity and this is the land of financial success. You know what I mean? And that actually has to be your number one reason for being here. It should be at the one of the top reasons for being here if you choose to be in America. So that's a pretty self-explanatory thing as far as making money. I think making money in America is way better than making money overseas. Next, we'll get into dating and relationships. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. If you guys have any questions about my experiences living abroad, or if you have any questions about my opinion about a certain topic of living abroad or whatever it may be. But I'm gonna get another set of pull-ups in, and then we'll get to dating and relationships. Dating and relationships. So not just romantic relationships, relationships you have with people as well. Ten, 15 dips now. All right, I'm gonna open up this window real quick as well. So dating and relationships, let's actually start this up before I open up the screen door. I would say it really just depends on what you're looking for. You see a lot of guys online, a lot of people who are promoting going overseas to date, going overseas to find love, find a wife, whatever it may be, or just to live out your degenerate dreams. For me, when I was overseas dating, just to keep it real, it was more about the living out my degenerate dreams than it was about actually finding love. You know what I mean? And I would say if you're somebody who's actually trying to find a serious relationship, going overseas is not the lick. Number one, you're going to have a ton of different barriers, cultural barriers, communication barriers, language barriers. You're gonna have all these things all these hurdles that you got to overcome. And more than likely, you got the relationship is going to be based on something extremely superficial. Now, granted, you might say, well, dating in America, there's a lot of superficiality when it comes down to relationships as well. But the thing is superficial aspects of relationship is what kind of sparks the relationship. For instance, when I met my girlfriend, I was, attracted to the way she looked and kind of the way she carried herself. But that was something a little bit more on the superficial side because I didn't really know anything about her. I actually had to get to know her. But the thing is, getting to know somebody who shares a culture with you, getting to know somebody who shares a language with you is a lot easier than getting to know somebody who either English is their second or third language, or whatever country that you're in is your second or third language. So there's going to be a lot lost in translation there. And there's also going to be a lot lost in translation when it comes down to just cultural things. Like people in Japan operate in relationships very differently than people in the United States. People in Brazil operate in relationships very differently than people in Taiwan. People in Argentina operate very differently in relationships than people in England. You know what I mean? It's just like every country has their own protocols when it comes down to relationship standards and things of that nature. Like, oh, is a man supposed to open the door for a woman? Or is, in Japan, that was actually one of the things that tripped me out when I moved to Japan. Women are supposed to let a man go through the door first, no matter what. Like a man walks in front of a woman, a man gets into the elevator first. So one of the things that I used to do when I first got to Japan is I used to, like, when I was waiting for an elevator, if it was some women there, I'd be like, go ahead and get in the elevator first. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we do in America. Ladies first, right? But in Japan, it's like, they'd be looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, you sure you want to let me get in? So they just be kind of looking at me like this as they walk into the elevator. So it's just different. You know what I mean? But like, don't fall for the trap of like this whole passport bro movement, because I was out traveling and doing all this way before these cats was out there doing it. And to be honest with you, when it comes down to the overseas game, these dudes is actually throwing salt in the game, because basically what they doing is wifing up females who's not wife material. Are they trying to wife up material women who's not wife material? It's like, you go to Thailand, you more than likely you're gonna meet a sex worker. You go to Colombia, more than likely you're gonna meet a sex worker. You go to a lot of these like third world type countries or poor countries, you're not dealing with regular women. You're dealing with women who are getting paid, who are doing things strictly because they look at you as a meal ticket or look at you because you got some paper. So that's not the type of relationship that you want to get into. You don't want to get in that type of relationship overseas or in the United States. So, and especially you don't want to end up wifing up a prostitute. I mean, that's not a good thing. But also, even when it comes down to like the more developed places like a Japan, or like I don't know, you name the place. Sometimes you'll have like, especially for brothers, you know what I mean? Like I'm coming at it from the standpoint or from a perspective of a black man, a brother, a black American who goes overseas. And then I was just kind of doing my thing over there. I was like dating, but the thing is, more than likely, when you get over to, like, say for instance, like a Japan, when I first got over there, where was I frequenting? I was frequenting the bars, the clubs, you know what I mean? All the ones that the other Americans was going to, you know what I mean? Like the hip hop spots and all that type of stuff. So the women there, they kind of like fetishize you, you know what I mean? And when it comes down to that, on a superficial level, hey, who cares? You know what I mean? If that's what you into, if that's what kind of stage in your life you're in. I'm not in that stage anymore, but when I was younger, I was all about it. But I also had the understanding that these women was basically going from foreigner to foreigner. You're going from brother to brother, basically, in these hip hop spots. So wifing up one of them is not necessarily your smartest idea if you're looking for a, quote unquote good girl. Because I see a lot of cats in on the internet or whatever it may be. Their complaint about American women is that they got all these complaints, but then they go to these other countries and get a woman that's 10 times worse than the women over here. So it doesn't make sense to me. And on top of that, a lot of the times when you go to these little like foreigner bars or foreigner clubs or whatever, the women there is actually trying to emulate American women. Like they like American culture anyway. So they want to be more Americanized anyways. When you trying to do the opposite by going to another country, but when you don't speak the language, you can't meet regular people in that country. You know what I mean? You can't meet like women who aren't like don't look at you like the thing is as especially as a brother like the way I look at it is when I'm in America I'm who I am, you know what I mean? I don't want to be stereotyped. I don't want people to think of me, like when I was in Japan, like people really just think about, and I'm not saying everybody, but people tend to see black people when they think, or and this is just like when I would spent time in Asia in general. They're like, they think of you as entertainment. You know what I mean? And that's like how people used to view black people here in the United States. You know what I mean? It's like either you an athlete, fucking singer, rapper, or a criminal. You know what I mean? So that's the way the media portrays us out here, and that's the only shit that they see that they know of us out there is through the media. So unless they actually are somebody who's not necessarily buying into that shit, then you are probably going to have to be able to speak the language to meet normal people in any of these countries. And I would say if you speak the language in any country, you have a better chance of actually finding fulfilling relationships, be it romantic or be it platonic, because you can actually get to know people who aren't necessarily like kind of putting you in a box, so to speak. Anyways, let me get another set in. Set of dips too. And yeah, back to the relationship thing. So, and I would say when it comes down to relationships in the United States, it could be easier and it can be harder. So I would say in order to find a superficial relationship, it's way easier to find a superficial relationship overseas. For instance, if you just want to like hook up, or even if you just aren't even really trying to go deep with somebody, you know what I mean? Like, which to me defeats the purpose of being in a relationship if you're not trying to go deep with somebody. But let's just say, for instance, you just are a type of guy where you're just like, hey, look, I want a woman who, you know, meets these superficial needs. She cooks for me, she cleans for me, she, makes love to me. All the things that I like on a superficial level, great. You can find that easily in a lot of these other countries. But finding some deep connection, that's going to be tricky. That's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack over there. When I feel like in the United States, if you take things the slow route, it's a lot easier to find a deeper connection out here. And sometimes the deeper connections don't work. That's just a part of dating. I think when it comes down to dating in general, another thing I don't like about the whole passport bro movement is that their whole rationale for going overseas to date and stuff like that is because it's quote unquote easier. Like the things that hold value in life are not supposed to be easy. Like a valuable relationship and a woman that's worth getting married to, that's not supposed to come easy in life. That's supposed to be something that takes time to cultivate, and that's supposed to be something that takes time to find. Otherwise, if it was easy to find, that means it's not a valuable commodity. You know what I mean? That means if it's so easy to find great relationships, then shit, why be in a fucking relationship? Because you can just go find another good ass woman right down the street. You know what I mean? But my like perspective and my view on what a good relationship is somebody who helps you grow and somebody who's going to grow with you. And I think it's easier to find that in the United States personally. You know what I mean? But also, what comes with being in the United States is it is a lot of bullshit in terms of like majority of people here are programmed to think in a certain way, just like the majority of people in other countries are programmed to think in a certain way too. But our culture in general has a little bit less morality to it. I would say, and there just isn't any code. Nobody's on code out here. Everybody's just kind of every man for themselves, and nobody kind of has, not nobody, but most people don't really have too much codes that they stick to and too much honor, I would say, versus in other countries, like if people go off code, then they get checked for it. In America, when you go off code, sometimes you get like big ups for going off code. You know what I mean? All right. What else is next on here? Let's see. We got that social loner says facts. What's up with it? Social loner. Anybody else got any questions for me? Put them in the description. It don't necessarily, I mean, put them in the comments or the chat. It don't have to be about dating overseas. I'm going to get through a couple more things here. Like I said, health and wellness and personal growth is up next, but I will speak a little bit more about relationships as well. So when it comes down to friendships, you know, that I feel like you're going to find your tribe no matter where you're at. And for me, I found my tribe in the States. I found my tribe overseas. And, as you guys can see, I'm big on calisthenics. I'm big on working out. So what's the first place that I go when I go to another country? First place I go is a calisthenics park. And to be honest with you, when I move to these other places, that's usually where I made the majority of my friends, was in calisthenics parks. And I met some cool ass people. And even when I was in Japan, I was vibrating way differently back then. I moved to Japan when I was like 28, 29, something like that, late 20s. I was like all about the drinking, smoking, partying, as many women as possible, staying up hell late, not really on my health and fitness. You know what I mean? But still, even without that being said, I met some good ass people. So I got a couple homeboys in Japan who still like family till to this day. My homeboy Muha and my homeboy Mike, both from Sudan. And then I got another homeboy, Devon, who's from Virginia, who plays basketball overseas. He out in Australia now. But so that's like family. And that's like basically my family away from family when it comes down to all my overseas people. So I was able to cultivate some great relationships. I got homeboys in Brazil. I got friends out in Argentina. So I was able to make friends everywhere I went. Even out in Taiwan, I was out there a limited amount of time, but was was able to make some cool friendships out there as well. So you could find friendships out there, but I would say the deep rooted ones is usually going to be some people from where you're at. Like my best friend is out here in San Francisco, my homeboy G. And yeah, I've been able to make some other cool ass friendships here. But friendships usually is you find your tribe wherever you vibrate the highest. So if it's calisthenics, if it's cafes, if that's what you into, then I would say hang out in those places. You're gonna meet like-minded people. So J-Man says, yo, I was always wondering why you are moving back. Sorry, why you moved back. Traveling seems more appealing. What are your thoughts on training weighted pull inserted point to get to a muscle up versus doing progressions to get it? So why I moved back is my own personal. I mean, I share with you guys. I moved back because I was traveling. I was living in Taiwan, and actually, I was in a relationship when I was out in Taiwan that was pretty bad. And I moved back out here, or I just came back out here to visit. Came back out, visited my pops, visited my best friend who lives out here. And when I was out here, I was just like, man, I think it would be a good time to get back. And especially my dad's 87. I was like, man, it'd be a good time to get back, spend time with my pops, really spend that quality time while we can have quality time. And then my best friend is out here. And then also, man, like I'm almost 40 years old. You know what I mean? And when I moved back out here, I was like 37 when I first got back out here. So for me, I was looking at it more from the standpoint of like, I need to find, or I want to find a place where I can like build and set up shop. Like I traveled for such a long time. I've done more traveling than most people will ever do in their lifetime. You know what I mean? And the brother in this comment says it looks more appealing. Traveling looks more appealing, but like worrying about money is not appealing. You know what I mean? When you have any type of health issues and you don't have no family there for you, that's not appealing. You know what I mean? Not knowing if you got people who got your back when you traveling around, that's not appealing. You know what I mean? Like it looks glamorous. Like, yeah, everybody shows these beautiful women and all this other type of shit. But at the end of the day, that's the superficial aspects of life. If you want to live your life through a superficial lens, then yeah, traveling is fun. And I'm not saying traveling isn't going to help you grow and teach you about who you are. You can grow, you can learn more about yourself. Shit, I feel like I found out who I was through traveling, which is great. But at the end of the day, it don't matter what environment you in, the mindset needs to be about growth. It doesn't need to be about I want to have as much casual sex as possible with beautiful women that, don't give me a headache, that cook and clean for me and all this other type of shit. Like, because really that's what a lot of these cats nowadays is traveling for. They're not traveling for culture. Now, it is a beautiful thing to travel and visit these other parts of the world, because that's really what I wanted to do when I first started traveling. Is I wanted to find I was never at peace living in the United States. So I was always trying to find some place where I could find some type of peace. And I found places that helped me grow, and the growth gave me more peace. But then I came to the conclusion that peace comes within here. It's not anything external. You know what I mean? And some people learn that through traveling. Some people learn that through hardships in the area that they're at. Some people learn that through whatever. You have to go through your own growth process. So, but traveling being more appealing, there's pros and cons. Like I said, it also depends on what season you at in your life. So I would say, I moved back because I wanted to find opportunity. And at the end of the day, like I made a video about this recently, and I've been able to create a 6-figure business out here in San Francisco with personal training. I wasn't I wasn't getting nowhere near that type of motion when I was overseas. And granted, 6 figures is like average salary out here, but I've been able to come here and, find some success and doing something that I love. How many people can say they make 6 figures doing something that they love? They look forward to work every single day. I do what I love for a living. And this is just the beginning. I only been out here for a year and a half. So once I start my gym, sky's the limit on how much money I'm making. I told my homeboy the other day, I gave him a certain number, which I'm not going to share with you guys, but I'm like, if I don't have this amount of money to touch in 5 years from now, that means something went off plan. And let's see. Payday J says, we in here. Salute. What's good, brother? Man, love to see you in the live stream, brother. How you doing, man? And speaking of somebody who's growing on a physical level, and I'm sure you're growing on a mental level, man, go check out Payday J's channel. That brother's doing some amazing things, man. Your muscle ups and handstand progress and everything else has been on point. Like I like watching people and watching their growth journey. That's funny because most people online don't give a fuck about your growth journey. But I like watching brother Payday J's growth journey. He's been doing his thing. Muscle ups is looking clean. J man, it's about growth. You're right. That's why I like the name Growth Through Calisthenics. Yeah, I mean, I like that channel too, but I went a different direction with my channel name. But after this, I'm gonna get into the next bullet point that I have about this travel, which is health and wellness. Now that's a good one because the first couple, like I said, relationships, like I said, if you can speak the language in another place, then yeah, relationships can be cool in other places. But I think United States, you can find a deeper connection. Making money, I think you can make more money in the United States. Health and wellness, that's another topic, and that's going to go in a different direction. And this is one of the reasons why eventually down the line, I might move back out the country. Now, I might move back out the country with my family, but I might move back out the country. And it might be for a health and wellness reason and a peace reason more so than it is a superficial reason. All right. Next set of pull-ups. And before I forget, the brother J-Man had asked, what do I think about um, what do I think about doing weighted pull-ups to get the muscle up? I think if you're doing explosive weighted pull-ups to get the muscle up, that's good. But a pull-up and a muscle up are two different movements. So for instance, from the side here, if I'm doing a pull-up, I'm just pulling straight up just like this. And I'm actually retracting my scapula. But with a muscle up, I'm more so pulling like this. And I'm almost protracting my scapula and going around the bar versus going straight up. I mean, you got some people who can do the muscle up just coming boom, just like that. But you got to achieve like superhuman amounts of strength to achieve that, that no dip muscle up where you just go straight up like an elevator. You know what I mean? But I would say chest to bar pull-ups is probably my favorite progression, and you don't even need weight. Once you can do like 5 to 10 chest to bar pull-ups without without breaking the setup, you can more than likely do a muscle up. But like I said, we're gonna get to the next topic, which is going to be, and if you guys want to learn how to do pull-ups, or if you guys want any programs or anything, go to my website. I have a free pull-up program, free. So if you can't do a pull-up and you just getting started, go to my website. It should be in a link in the description box. And I have a free pull-up program. It's a 12-week program, and you can download it for free. Got video examples and all that. So watch here. Says, hey, brother, that's a wise lesson, my man. It comes from within. We all start wanting status, more sex, travel, the abs and muscle to show off when you realize how deep really things are as you go into your soul. And you know what the funny thing about it is? The more that you dive deep into yourself, the more prosperity you have on a superficial level. But also the thing is, the superficial shit doesn't actually even mean as much to you anymore. Like, it really don't mean as much to you, but you start getting abundance because you taken care of, because you creating, we create our reality from inside. So if we're creating a peaceful, successful, faith-based reality on the inside, we're gonna have a great reality. We're gonna have a great life. We have a great life. But trying to juggle the things in this three-dimensional world with the things in our internal world can be a struggle sometimes. And that's where I'm gonna go to the next topic. So the next topic is health and wellness. This to me is like, without a doubt, better in other countries. And there's a number of reasons why I think health and wellness is better living abroad. Number one is just in the culture. When I was in Brazil, you go to the beach, there's calisthenic setups everywhere. You walk around the city, they got calisthenic setups everywhere. Somebody can literally stop what they're doing at work, take a little break, go out and do pull-ups and dips. You know what I mean? People can just be waiting for the bus stop and do pull-ups and dips, because a lot of times it's like a pull-up and dip station at the bus stop in Brazil. When I was in Vietnam, I seen hella more calisthenics parks. When I was in Taiwan, there was way more calisthenics parks. People are more active and they have a more like movement-based mentality in a lot of these other countries. When I was in Argentina, the parks would be filled. I go to a park in the United States, and like, for instance, I'm getting ready to go to the park after I get off this live. I'm going to go run the stairs at this place called Alta Plaza Park in San Francisco. So Alta Plaza Park's cool park. You see people walking their dogs. Sometimes they take their kids to the like playground or whatever. I'd probably say when I go there, I'm like the only person running the stairs. You know what I mean? Like, people might be out there sunbathing sometimes, maybe walking around or whatever, but people aren't in parks just moving, doing yoga. When I was in Argentina, I used to work out this park called Parque Centenario. And this place, dude, is yoga everywhere. People doing movement, dancing, soccer, basketball. There's like 2 different calisthenics setups. Everybody's out doing calisthenics. Everybody's moving. Everybody's doing, you know what I mean? People are outside. They always outside in these other countries versus us. We want to be inside for whatever reason. We want to be inside. We want to be plugged in. You know what I mean? We consume with work way more than other countries. And it's really unhealthy. And to be honest with you, I've been trying to that's the area where I've been trying to find my balance, because I'm not in as good a shape. When I got back to the United States, I was in better shape than I am right now, just to keep it 100. You know what I mean? And I'm in pretty good shape, but I was in better shape when I got back out here, and I had a little bit less stress, I would say, from but finding that balance and finding that sweet spot of peace is an inside job. So you got to figure that out on your own. What works the best for you? And on top of that, it's about setting boundaries as well. One more thing about the health and wellness aspect too is like we have a gym culture in the United States. And the crazy thing about it is like gyms don't equal health. You know what I mean? It's like I've actually been noticing gyms actually almost make you softer, because you feel like you need a machine, or you need this piece of equipment, or you want this place to be aesthetic in this way, this, you know what I mean? It's like people have all these little extra needs that they need in these gyms. And it's like even some of my clients, it's like I don't know, they want to have this perfect setting to work out, when in other countries people is getting it in, they don't even have no fucking equipment, bro. When or not bro, but when I was out in Brazil, there's this little outdoor gym in between Ipanema Beach, in between Copacabana Beach, and they just have cinder blocks. Motherfuckers are doing curls with cinder blocks, doing bench press looking like the Flintstones type setup, pull-ups, dips, squats. You know what I mean? They out there getting it in. People in way better shape than they are here. Why is it that everybody's in better shape than Americans with way less money and way less equipment? Come on. They prima donnas out here. Italy too. Lesser cars, transportation, more walking. Exactly. And the walking too. So that's another thing. I actually live in, I believe, is the most walkable city in the United States. So I do get a fair amount of walking in San Francisco. Not as much as I was getting in overseas, because I didn't have a car. And having a car, it's kind of like one of these crutches where it kind of allows you to kind of, like, sometimes I'll sleep in a little bit later when I know I want to walk to work, or I'll take more time getting ready to go do something when I know I was planning on catching the bus someplace. But because I have a car, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go 15 minutes later. You know what I mean? And then I end up getting less steps in. And getting steps in is super important. That's one of the reasons why what I noticed the difference between my clients who are leaner versus my clients who are just building muscle is the ones who get their cardio practice in. And getting your steps in is built-in cardio. That's the best way you can get cardio in, is just from getting your steps in. And when I was in Buenos Aires, that place, I didn't even need to run in Buenos Aires, because I was literally getting in 20 to 25,000 steps every single day. Every single day, 20 to 25,000 steps. Out here in San Francisco, I just looked at my step averages for the year so far, and I'm averaging 13,000 steps per day, which is not terrible, but it's also not where I want to be when it comes down to step count. So I prefer it to be somewhere between like 15 and 17,000. Also, another thing about San Francisco, it's a super hilly city. So 15,000 steps in San Francisco is a little bit different than 15,000 steps in a flat city. But yeah, health and wellness and just finding peace, I'd say, is easier to find health, wellness, peace overseas. Oh yeah, Payday J. He says UPS driver 20K steps a day. See, that's the thing, is like, that's the benefit to having a job that actually has you getting out and moving around. Like, I'm actually blessed that I'm blessed that I'm a personal trainer, because I'm lifting shit up all day. I'm moving around. I'm walking around, talking to people. I'm on my feet. I'm not behind a desk like this. One of the most common things I see with people is that they have this problem when it comes down to their posture, instead of walking like this. And they call this like upper cross syndrome. If you're a personal trainer, it's like overactive traps, overactive pecs, weak lats, and it's because they sitting on their computers like this all day, so they stuck in this position. So it's not an attractive thing to have, and it's not good for you. But when you sitting down all day, you have that upper cross syndrome. You also might have back issues from sitting down all day. A lot of my clients come in with back problems is because they sitting down all day. That's not what we're made to do as human beings. And watch here says, and probably some kind of coloring to make it look redder. Even the bread in a lot of places is most often not an organic. Yeah, I feel that one. Yeah, the food in the United States is terrible quality. I'm not saying that the food every other country is good quality. Like when I was in Brazil, the meat quality is not very good, but the fruit is on point. Jobs where you lift and move, especially being outdoors, is our life hack, man. Don't even need to worry about job unless you want some bodybuilding physique. Yeah, I mean the thing is like I personally couldn't work in the office. That's just not my thing. That's actually one of the reasons why I didn't like doing the online training versus like training people in person is because it required me to be on the computer. I'm barely ever on the computer. Like I don't even run lives that much because I'm not on a computer. You guys see, I barely put out. I stopped putting out content for quite a bit of time, so I just kind of got tired of doing anything online. And man, I feel like my mental health skyrocketed because I wasn't in front of a computer screen. I'm gonna get another set of 10 pull-ups and then another set of 15 dips, and then we're gonna go on to the next topic. All right. Also, if you guys got any questions, keep the questions coming because I'll probably be on live for about 15 more minutes. All right, personal growth. Personal growth, I feel like, is one of those things that we can get a good amount of personal growth no matter where we're at. It's really up to us. Now, it also depends on what season we are in our lives. If we in a season of trying to self-discovery, exploration, maybe traveling is going to be a better one for our personal growth. But if we're in a season of maybe building business wise, then probably is going to be posting up in the United States. So self-development, there's so many different areas. Relationships is another area where we can be developing personal growth. And, you know, I think that United States is a good place to navigate that just because on the surface level, it seems a lot more difficult, but on a surface level, it's a lot more difficult. But once you dive in deep, I feel like there's a lot more opportunities to grow. So growth is one of those things where we can grow wherever we're at. But I would also say the place that makes us feel the most challenged and the most uncomfortable is usually where we're going to grow the most. So for me, I'm in a phase of my life right now where things are about building a business, opening up a gym, starting a family, you know, building on my relationship that I have with my woman. And the United States is really the only place for me to do that. And sometimes I get, you know, I'm just like anybody else. I have moments of weakness. I might see some shit going on online when I'm like looking at people kicking back, you know, going and drinking coconut water on the beach in Vietnam or some shit like that. And I'm like, damn, I wouldn't mind doing that. I wouldn't mind going posted up in another country where I can just kind of lay back. Don't have to have so many responsibilities. Don't have to have so much stress. But that's taking me away from the growth in the season that I'm in right now. There was a time, you know, when growth was happening exponentially for me overseas because I was learning about who I am. And it took for me to go overseas to get out of my normal environment. I went to the calisthenics park yesterday, had a great conversation with this brother out here. If you guys are familiar with San Francisco, this brother was from Hunters Point. And Hunters Point's like the hood out here in San Francisco, or it used to be. Because San Francisco is a city that got heavily gentrified. So really, there's not too many black people out here anymore, except for actually Hunters Point. And just, there's a few of us sprinkled into every one of these neighborhoods. You know what I mean? But this brother's a native from out here. And his growth journey was completely different than mine. But we both had a conversation talking about how, when you're born, you almost go through a form of amnesia because you don't know who you are. And then you're on this journey to try to figure out who you are. And for me, there was a long stretch of time and there's a long stretch of time for everybody, I feel like, when we're just trying to fit in. We're not even necessarily worried about who we are because we just want to fit in with everybody else. You know what I mean? That's the reason why people see somebody with the same skin color, the same religion as them, the same X, Y, and Z, and they're like, oh, let's click up, let's group up. You know what I mean? But that's the easy way out because we have to find out who we are. This shell is our shell. We're blessed to have a shell that we can kind of interact with people and go through our unique journey with people. But at the end of the day, who we are is who we are on the inside and not who we are superficially. And a lot of times we're put into a box. So then we have to start going our journey to figure out, who are we? You know what I mean? What makes me tick? What are my values? What do I want out of life? For me, I had to go overseas to start that journey. And now I feel like I've grown enough to where I'm comfortable in who I am. And now I've built a skill set and continue to build my skill set, continue to grow into who I am. But I can share that with people and I can attract people for doing that. And this brother, he went through a hellified journey out here. Brother was telling me about how he got shot, was in the streets, all this other type of shit. But the brother's vibrating so high. You know what I mean? It was like we was at the park for like 30 seconds and then instantly just started chopping up with each other, had a connection. You know what I mean? But the brother, he was telling me about his journey, about finding out who he was and all that. So, like I said, everybody has a different growth trajectory. For him, his growth came here and it came with a lot more struggle. But me and my other homeboy had a conversation about this too. It's like we all go through struggles in life. I've been through my fair share. I know you guys have been through your fair share of struggles. But my boy said something interesting. He's like, God only gives the struggles, the real hard ones, to the people who can handle it. You know what I mean? And that brother obviously can handle it. And he's shining. You know what I mean? His energy was radiating. All right, let's see what else you guys got. CJL says, I'm thinking about getting Bull Bar for home workouts. Do you still like it? Yeah, I love this thing. It's great. It's stable. It's stable enough to do everything I want to do from home. I was just working on planche with some bands on here. I do my pull-ups on here. I do my dips on here. I set up my gymnastics rings. I can do my muscle ups on here. I can do front lever practice on here. I can do leg raises, L sits, whatever I need. And J-Man says, have you ever tried to train your parents? I want to train my mother, but I feel like I need to give her super light exercises. She's over 60. That's a great question. And the answer is yes. I've trained both of my parents. I used to train my mom a lot, but now that I'm living out in Oakland, or I'm living in San Francisco, sorry, my dad lives in Oakland. And for those of you who are familiar with the Bay Area, Oakland is right across the bridge. Actually, I'm going to Oakland later on today. Going to Oakland in about 3 hours, and I'm going to go train my dad later because I have like a home workout situation set up for him at home. And when it comes down to me training elderly people, that's actually like my specialty out here. So I actually enjoy training older clients more than I enjoy training younger clients because I get more fulfillment out of it because this is something that directly helps them and prolongs their life and prolongs the quality of their life. And it's something I enjoy doing with my dad too. But you have to give them regressed exercises. Like you're not going to have my dad is not going to sit up here and do pull-ups and dips. You know what I mean? I give him regress stuff that we do on TRX instead of just doing like regular squats. You know what I mean? We're doing squats where it's basically him doing something like this will be, this is kind of in the way, but it'd be a squat where he just sits down, gets right back up, box squats. And then he just does those, you know what I mean? But that movement in itself is great for people who are elderly. So yeah, I train my parents and I want to continue training my parents so they can live as healthy and good of a life. And good on you for wanting to train your moms. And if you want to train your moms and she's over the age of 60 years old, just give her regressed exercises, stuff that's easy for her. Like the stuff should be simple enough and easy enough to where they feel comfortable. Because when you're training older people and elderly people, even when you're training younger people, the name of the game is to make sure that people have stability first. This is the order things should go in when it comes down to your training. First, you go in your stability block. I want everything stable. I want my joints stable. I want my legs stable. I want my shoulders stable, everything. Then endurance. I want to be able to have enough endurance to be able to do 10 reps or something, 15 reps or something. Then you start training strength. And then it's like, I want to get stronger at these exercises. And sometimes people just want to stay in that stability and endurance block. And that's great for older people. But for us younger people, we want to get more strength. And for athletes, you even want to take it up another notch. You want to get more power. So for us athletes, we want to have power. We want to be explosive in our movements. So that's stability, endurance, strength, power. That's how it goes when we come down to the training blocks. And yeah, but if you guys have any more questions, put them in the chat and then I'll answer them. Any questions about life, any questions about travel, any questions about, I don't know, whatever you guys want, calisthenics, whatever it may be, put it in the chat. So I'm going to do maybe one more couple sets and maybe check out what you guys have to say. And then I'm going to go run the stairs. So it's Sunday. Kind of want to have a easy Sunday, give some time to myself to sit out in the sun too. Yeah, I'm gonna have a more frequent upload schedule. So I actually just shot 2 videos before I went on this live. So I'm gonna upload 2 videos, probably maybe one today, maybe one on Wednesday or something like that. 2 videos I have to do minimal editing to, so they should be up within the next day or two. So I got some uploads coming for you guys. One video, I believe, kind of a niche video, just more so talking about how we need to slow down sometimes. For those of us who are super ambitious, super motivated, always have a drive, always want to keep moving, sometimes it's good for us to sit back, get in the present, slow down, take a deep breath. Other video I came out with, other one I dropped was another good one. That one was actually one I can't wait to drop. And that one was how we communicate with God. And that one is a little bit deeper. So it's more so about thoughts, beliefs, and actions, and how we communicate with God through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And what's your take on overcoming pornography? How are you able to find more purpose in your life, especially the next steps forward kind of thing? I'm working on gigs just to pass by currently, but always looking for more. So pornography, I would say if you're somebody who's struggling with any type of addiction, be it pornography, be it substances, then I would say that more than likely it's because you probably have a lot of time on your hands or you're wasting a lot of time with these like vices, and pornography is a vice, just like anything else. We all have sexual urges, you know what I mean? So sometimes we satisfy those sexual urges with, you know, real people. Sometimes we satisfy those with watching something online. And I'd say I don't necessarily see, I'm not somebody who's necessarily going to say that pornography is such a terrible thing. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It's just like, I mean, sometimes it could be a tool, really. If you're trying to not date and you want to like satisfy your urges without having to get out there and you losing your focus in that, then it might be something that might work for you. But if you're somebody who's using it every single day or using it on a regular basis and, you know, it's causing more harm mentally to you than it is something that's just a release, then I would say you should really try to fill your time with something else. Anytime you get that urge, go do some push-ups or, you know, get on your fitness grind. We can always be doing more fitness wise. We can always be doing more as far as like building. You know, what are your hobbies? What things in your day have you not taken care of? Have you made your bed yet? Have you cleaned the dishes in the kitchen yet? You know what I mean? Have you put everything away? Like shit. Look, I got shit to do my damn self. I got the kitchen's not all the way clean here. So I need to do some stuff myself. So before I do anything, like for me, I would say I got my own vices. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna show you guys some of my vices. My vices is, you know what I mean? Before I decide to open up a pack of joints, you know what I mean, and smoke a J, I need to make sure I have everything else handled. You know what I mean? So, and granted, my vices are more under control than I would say the average person. I smoke weed, but I smoke weed like once or twice a week. I don't smoke weed every day. You know what I mean? I use it more as a supplement than anything else. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes your vices can just be a supplement. But the thing is, you need to get your vices under control, whatever they may be. For me, one of my vices for the longest time, which was the most powerful vice that I ever had to deal with, was women. And like, I was constantly on the chase for women, constantly. And I just let it consume my life. And even when I was in relationships, I was never faithful. And I was always, it never was enough. I could have 5 different women I'm dealing with. I wanted 10. You know what I mean? And it was never enough. And this funny thing is like once you get your vices under control and you're able to basically get control of your energy and your willpower, the right things come into your life anyways. It's like even when I first moved out to San Francisco, I still, you know, we worked through progressions. You know, first when I was younger, I was always chasing after women. Then I was always getting into these relationships and not being faithful. Then I started to be able to control that more. But when I was single, I was always still thinking about women. And it's funny, before I met my girlfriend I'm with right now, I was dating a lot. I was going on hella dates, meeting a bunch of women. But then I finally was just like, you know what? Let me give all this time to myself. Let me make sure that I'm on point. Let me make sure I'm getting my business on point. Let me make sure that I'm getting X, Y, and Z checked off. You know what I mean? And I started focusing on myself, and then my lady just popped into my life, and I feel like and it wasn't anything that had to do with me looking or anything like that. She just literally basically fell on my lap. And then we got to know each other on a deeper level because even when I first met her, I was more so on like the type of tip where I was like, I'm not trying to rush this process. I don't want to get sexual too soon. I want to actually get to know this person. And then we built an emotional and an intellectual connection, which is what keeps us together and what keeps this growth happening between us. And let's see, any other questions? How were you able to find more? Okay. Since income fuels a lot of other things, whether it's health, relationships, a bit. So here's a little tidbit from the video that I'm about to drop right now. And this is my opinion on how you build abundance and how you deal with a lot of these problems. So, I read this book back in the day called As a Man Thinketh, one of the best books I've ever read, actually. And it's for sure. It's better to attract than chase, for sure. No doubt about it. You don't even want to, like, bro, even when it comes down to my business, I don't go out looking for clients. You know what I mean? I don't go out looking for clients. You guys see, I don't, like, when I was doing my online business, I was always like, oh, sign up for this, check out my website, this, that, and the third. I'll tell you guys, check out my website to download a free pull-up program that I'm not going to make no money off of. So go to my website and download that. But I don't need to, I'm not trying to force you to do the shit. You know what I mean? Same thing with my clients now. I get paid well to train people, and I'm not chasing clients. I attract all the clients. All my clients refer me to their friends, and their friends refer me to their friends. And I have to turn down people that want to train with me. But the thing is, when I was in the scarcity mindset, when I first got out here, I was chasing clients, and it was way more stressful and I was way less successful. But now that I let my skill set and who I am speak for myself, I'm attracting. And that's the same thing when it comes down to women. When we just build ourselves up from the inside and we, take care of ourselves, give ourselves that self-love, we develop internal confidence, self-esteem, everybody's attracted to you. Everybody's going to be attracted to you. Trust me. But what I was getting to on the As a Man Thinketh thing is I always used to have this thing, because they say if you want to manifest something, you have to think it, believe it, and then it'll come into fruition. But I've actually found that the recipe for that most people think, as in let's think of it and let's manifest it through our thoughts and our words. That's actually the backwards way of doing things. The real way to manifest something is to actual take action on things in life. And by taking action in things, it allows you to have more belief in yourself. And then when you have more belief in yourself, you're always going to have these positive thoughts. And then as you have these positive thoughts all the time, and you have more belief in yourself that you can grow and make bigger successes and accomplish bigger goals, it's like a snowball effect. You just keep on attracting more and more abundance to yourself. And that's what's been happening with me. You know what I mean? So I think it's more so about taking action and taking the action and accomplishing little things, micro victories. That's going to build more confidence. And then once you develop more confidence, that's going to lead to you having that positive thoughts. And then by having those positive thoughts, the abundance just comes in. And then, when you're in a cycle like that, vices don't have as big of a hold on you as they do. Like, as funny as it is, I have a couple of vices. One of them is, one of my, like I said, I share with you guys what my biggest vice has been throughout my life, which is women. And probably, to be honest with you, my second biggest vice is probably like processed sugar. Like, and I know that sounds like a very like trivial thing, but it's a serious one because, like, man, I can go, like, man, there was times where I could go on binges on these processed, like I wouldn't even eat real food throughout the day. And a lot of times you would look at me and be like, man, this guy's in great shape. But I'd be going through the day eating fucking cookies and croissants and candy and shit like that. And I didn't even eat any real food throughout the whole day. So that's been a big vice for me. And even last night, I still struggle with these demons. You know what I mean? Last night I came back in, I was watching the Jerome Boots Ennis fight versus Amantis Stanionis. Me and my boy went down to a sports bar down the street. It's Saturday. I'll usually cheat a little bit on my meals or whatever. Came back into the house. I'm like, I got a fresh thing of ice cream in the freezer. I got speculous cookies in the cabinet. I'm thinking about getting down and dirty on some sweets late night. But I was able to control myself. And I didn't even come into the kitchen last night. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a shower. Boom. Get ready. Wind down. Go to sleep. But anyways, this is the last set I'm going to do on the live. So if you guys have any questions, put the questions in the chat, and then I'll answer them. And then and then after that, I'm finishing this live up. All right. Yeah, sugar is definitely a hard one. All right, y'all. So I see that's about it from the inner chat group. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shit. I'm gonna be uploading some videos soon. Hope everybody's having a great Sunday out there. Peace.